Oh man. And we're live. Hey
Hey
man.
there. How you doing?
Good.
I
We're
heard
like one
so.
of those TV crews that like run in their like shorts or whatever, sit down and they go. Hit play. Here we are.
Yeah,
We're
that's
live.
pretty much yes. Yeah, I'm fresh if that's the right word from the White Label Expo in Frankfurt. So I've just basically got off a plane last night. So brain's
Yeah.
still landing in the UK, but
I never heard what the deal was that you were going to. So the White Label Expo
yeah, so about
in Germany.
8,000 Amazon sellers or would-be Amazon sellers, I guess a mixture from what I could gather,
Wow.
and lots and lots of specialists and speakers and lots of people exhibiting their wares. A lot of CBD
8,000
or like
people? So
lots and lots.
it was more like a trade show than it was in
Yeah,
because of
exactly right.
8,000?
It was
Okay.
in the Frankfurt trade fair. So,
Okay.
and look who it is. Yeah, Jacob Topping, our most loyal
Hey
listener, I think.
buddy.
It's actually somebody actually met him for champagne breakfast at 6 a.m. yesterday, which might explain why I'm still sort of getting my head around normal podcast
Okay, so
life.
what's the highlight for the White Label Expo? I don't know why White Label Expo in Germany just seems. Does that seem whatever? I don't know.
Yeah.
No.
What was the
Anyway,
highlight?
what was it about? What was it? Was it like? Was it awesome?
It was good. I'm never quite convinced about expos. I know you don't even sort of tend to, go and sort of talk at different things. And I can see your point.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. I'm never quite convinced about the official events somehow. I
Mm.
mean, the
Hmm.
talk was good. Fortunately, about 10 minutes before I went on, I looked out and there were 5 people in the audience. I thought it was going to be a complete dud, but in the end, it filled up.
Good.
Had capacity audience and not a huge space that I was speaking to, maybe 100 people. And then I had a sort of queue of maybe 10 people to speak to afterwards. So it's something hit a nerve, which is good. And then, yeah, I spoke to some really cool people. It's more the people around the conference and the
Hmm.
sports speech itself that was fun for me rather than just standing around randomly talking to strangers. So,
And
yeah,
you got to hang out with Jacob yesterday
got to hang out with
morning for
Jacob, which was
breakfast. So
really awesome. Actually, that was one of the
fantastic.
highlights. Yeah, it was very
All right.
fun.
Well,
Yeah,
that's super cool. It's so fun to hang out and meet up with people, and it's
yeah,
an interesting opportunity when we can do it. COVID seems like it's just sort of put a massive wrinkle in that, but
it
we can
has.
do it virtually anyway.
Absolutely.
Okay, we're gonna obviously this is a special Saturday morning live recording of the e-commerce leader podcast. So schedules require a bit of a twist here. Thanks for joining with us. We're gonna have a great conversation today, all about returning customers versus returning visitors versus new visitors
Hmm.
to your website. So I think that's going to be a fun conversation. We got 8 tips for people that are directly going to help them make more sales. And so that's the topic of the day. Before we jump in, I just want to say if you haven't checked out the Call In app and our new show on Call In, you definitely got to do that. I put it in my newsletter, um, and we've had just a fun time. This last week, we had a special guest, Kate Chaddock,
Hmm.
and her and Chris Green were geeking out over Q4 RA strategies. So we'd love to have you check out the Call In app and the e-commerce leader Call In show there. Did you know we're ranked? Man, we're like a top 50 business show on the
Already.
Call In app. Yeah, because
Amazing.
there's only 50 shows. No, I'm just kidding. No, just kidding. There's shows. There are a lot of shows. And we're in the
Yeah.
top 50. So that's super
Amazing.
cool.
That is very cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'd love to have you join. Follow the show. Check out the content. Do what you can do. Like the episodes, leave comments, that kind of stuff. All right, sir. Are you ready to jump into the recording of the show here?
Yeah. Let's do this thing.
All right, let's do it. Here we go. New e-commerce sellers always tell me they want more traffic to their website. But when I ask why, they say they need more sales. In this episode, we're going to talk about how returning customer rates directly impact your conversion rate. We're going to give you 8 bonus ways to improve your returning customers to your site, and ultimately the opportunity to make more sales with equal or fewer customers, both to Shopify and to Amazon product listings. So, Michael, are you ready to jump into this topic?
Absolutely. Yeah. I like this a lot. And yeah, more traffic is always apparently the answer, but it nearly always isn't what people
Hmm.
really want. So
Hmm.
yeah, this is great stuff. So this is really part of our conversion rate optimization, I suppose, mini series. So
Hmm.
the last time you used a great phrase, conversion rate possibilities frontier, which I thought was very cool. Can you quickly recap what that means?
Sure. Yeah, it's a phrase from production work and the possibilities frontier. And so for conversion rates, if we apply it to that, just make a standard chart. draw it, on a piece of paper, and in the bottom left corner, draw a little bubble and put your current conversion rate in that bubble. That's your current conversion rate. And then draw a second bubble out further up and to the right and double the conversion rate. So if you're at 2%, that bubble would be 4%. If you're at 3%, it would be 6. And then do it again. So you've got this chart that represents for you these order of magnitudes of doublings of your conversion rate. And the question is, what would it mean for you financially if that happened? And so you want to think through that. When you double your conversion rate, you're doubling your revenue with zero additional marketing costs. You double your conversion rate, you're radically improving the results of your advertising and marketing. You double your conversion rate, you have more money from fewer customers, which is always a good way to go. And you'll likely more than double your profits. You definitely mathematically more than double your profits if you double your conversion rate. So if there's one thing to obsess over, it is how to get your conversion rate up, and definitely before you blow a lot of money on advertising.
Yeah.
Because it's like a,
Yeah.
a leaky bucket, right? That
Yeah.
metaphor of, you want to fill the holes in your bucket before you add a lot of water. And so you don't want to be spending a lot of money on Facebook ads or anything like that if you have a really bad conversion rate. So there you go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
agree with that, and it's exactly the same thing on the Amazon world. Before you spend a ton of money on Amazon ads, it could be just as bad as Google ads.
Hmm.
And yeah, in fact, one of the main things that I was trying to get people to obsess about, and the talk I gave at the White Label Expo was indeed obsessing about conversion rate optimization as a kind of the thing to obsess about
Hmm.
rather than how to get
Hmm.
more traffic. So, talking of which, then, so we're talking today then about how to the returning customer rate impacts your conversion rate. So let's get into this. I mean, but first of all, what is returning
Yeah.
customer rate and
Yeah.
why is it so important?
Yeah. Well, in Shopify analytics dashboard, there's a very nice couple of charts that you can look at. Top right corner, you've got your new versus returning customers as a percentage for any time period. And it's a very nice chart to look at. And a lot of people are like, okay. And when I really start to work with our coaching clients on this, I obsess over this. And then they're like, we're like, what's your deal with this chart? I'm like, well, let me explain this to you. And so there's definitely, I guess you could say, correlation between this returning visitor rate and your conversion rate. And so, I'll just back of the envelope. This is kind of how I would think about it. And this isn't scientific, but I'll just say I've looked at a ton of Shopify sites with people. And I can tell you it's something, some scientists should do the work, but it's something like this. If you have less than 10% of your visitors that are returning, meaning 90% of your visitors are new to your site, your conversion rate is going to be less than 1%. Probably. I mean, I would imagine. I mean, this is close enough for horseshoes and hand grenades. If you have a returning customer rate of 10 to 30%, so 70% of your visitors are brand new, you're going to have a conversion rate that's in like the 2% range. 2% conversion rate for Shopify sites is like the industry average. That's the normal. And then you see what I'm doing here. So the higher your returning customer, or returning visitor number is, the more that conversion rate is going to be drawn up. And so, and I look at sites all the time, and the conversion rate on one of my sites is 18.4%, and the conversion or the customer rate, the returning rate is over 40%. So you've got this focus on this: how many people are new versus returning, and what does that do to my conversion rate? And it's that simple. And to
Yeah.
geek out over that, to think about that, to apply that to your business is really, really central to the idea of this conversion rate frontiers, improvement.
It's interesting, and we are talking about traffic, but we're talking about not new traffic, but existing people, and we're
Hmm.
also reverse engineering from the conversion rate. So it's interesting how
Hmm.
we're working back towards that traffic obsession that you say people come to you with,
Hmm.
but from a sort of conversion rate point.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
obviously now we know how important it is to get customers to return a second, third, a tenth, whatever it is time.
Hmm. Yeah.
How do we go about actually doing that?
Yeah, there's so many ways that you can think about doing this. I have a list of 8 here I want to mention. We'll just rattle them off and talk about them a little bit, but this is not a comprehensive list. I mean, there's a lot of things beyond this if we really all put our heads together and thought about it. Um, And so, yeah, let me go through a few of these, and we can just spitball together about the importance of these. Um, the first thing I would just say to everyone on a Shopify site, and this doesn't correlate to or relate to Amazon so much, but Michael, you'll have to rationalize these for us for the Amazon audience. But the first thing you want to do is you want to try to capture their email address on the first go. The first visit, you definitely want to get their email address. That's your ticket to future returning, strategies frequently. It's not the only ticket, but it's one of the tickets. So you definitely want to try to get their email address with a very powerful ethical bribe. The ethical bribe you can test over time. A lot of people will just do a pop up that says, hey, before you go, love to have you buy something. Here's a 10% off first buyer coupon, or whatever. Other people will do an info product, how to guide, something that feels very meaningful and relevant to your visitor. The goal is to get that email address. And then, of course, you want on the back end of that email address opt in to have a welcome series that's maybe 3 to 6 messages that would go to them over the course of the first week to 10 days. Every one of those welcome messages should give them a reason to return to your website. So just by capturing the email address, you then put them in the pipeline for 3 to 6 meaningful ways that they should come back to your website. And we've done welcome series conversations before, but there's a whole set of things you can include in those automation sequences that help people get back. So I would say that's the first tip or trick, is absolutely go for email address as the first thing. So
Yeah, I think that's it's the old school marketing thing that they still say, the money's in the list, and I think it is. Although I would say perhaps a nuance is the money's in the relationship to the list. But assuming that
mhm,
you send them emails that are relevant and interesting and engaging for who they are, absolutely right. And I would say for Amazon sellers, you should start obsessing about list building off Amazon right now, because it's getting harder and harder, each 6 month period really to get hold of customer data from Amazon. Google SEO plus email list building is a great medium-term marketing asset for somebody who
mhm.
sells, even if they sell only on Amazon to start with. Over time, you then get the choice: do you want to set your own D2C site up? And if so, that's a great asset. So I think an email list is a great asset for product launch, even if you sell 100% on Amazon at the moment.
Absolutely, of course, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, that
really
will
important.
really impact the algorithm. You send traffic and sales that are high converting traffic and sales to your Amazon listing, and it's gonna really, really impact the algorithm, isn't it? Yeah,
100%. Yeah.
yeah,
And also it gives you that control that you have a list. If, Amazon does shut you down, you have got to
mhm,
direct to consumer site that is a small
mhm,
percentage of your sales, that you can ramp that up if you need to, if Amazon does suspend your account. But also, yeah, you will just drive more sales, and your competitors won't be able to reverse engineer
yeah,
directly on the Amazon platform what it is you're doing as well. So
yeah.
it's just got a host of upsides to it, really.
I'm sorry, man. I just added a ninth way that so I'm increasing our list here. Can I mention one other top of
Please do.
just first initial thing? You absolutely definitely need to have your pixels set up on your Shopify site if you're a Shopify site, person, and that would be Google Pixel and Facebook Pixel, so that you can then subsequently retarget them. That is your ticket to ride for future retargeting. So if your email address acquisition is the ticket to ride for future email marketing, you're pixeling them as a ticket to ride for the future, paid advertising work to put back in front of them your products or your brand, et cetera, et cetera. That's a very obvious setup thing. It's a one-time thing that you then use in Google or Facebook to build campaigns around. But
Yeah.
if you don't have that set up in your Shopify site, you're missing out on a huge opportunity to get returning customers. Yeah.
And I would say anyone Amazon-based sellers, or focused, shall we say, this is harder to justify in the short term because it
Yeah.
could be a very expensive way of doing an Amazon launch. But I would say in the medium term, it still applies, because you don't know whether your D2C site's going to be taking off in 6, 12, 18 months. And if it
Yeah.
is, at that point, you want to have built that list. So it's kind of building now for future use, really, isn't it? It's very much a future kind of thinking of sort of asset, I think.
Yeah. And it's if you're just straight Amazon seller, it's hard to apply. I mean, this is a Shopify strategy more, but
Mm.
yeah. Okay. So that's the second one. So third one is um, get them to buy anything on your site on their first visit. Now, I know this sounds like duh-ism, but what I mean by this specifically is think about like a Walmart or like a convenience store. what you want to do is set up your site so that your customer has a absolute no-brainer checkout process for something that is valuable to them. And the simplest way to do this is, and this is really important. So if you run on Shopify, listen to me really closely right now. I've done like 4 million transactions on Shopify. I'm telling you, I know this is the real deal. A lot of people will have like a little guide or a little PDF document, a little manual or something like that, and they'll just have it on their site as like a PDF or even just page content. And the absolute number one thing you can do is just convert that into an information product that is a PDF that they get by checking out. So it's a product in your store. They go through the product checkout system. They add it to their cart, then they download it. They know it's free, or maybe so you can make it a 99-cent thing or whatever. That's not about making money. That is about them setting up an account and having the checkout experience in an early, or ideally first visit to your website. That is so foundationally important. I just can't like stress it enough. If you do that, if you get them to go through your site for an item early in their visiting their first visit, they will know your checkout system, but most importantly, you'll have all their data. They will have gone through and either set up an account that's not registered, so there's different rules or treatment there, which is a whole geek out thing. But then they might claim their account or set up their account in a way that then you're good to go in terms of other strategies now that could be unlocked, now that you have all their data. And I'll talk about those other strategies in a minute. But this idea of getting them to buy anything, it does not matter your cost of, it's not about making money. That is central to the idea of getting good, solid returning customer, or returning visitors to your site over time. Yeah.
I love it. I'm just trying to think desperately whether there's a sort of Amazon angle to this. I guess there isn't particularly. So there's
Well,
another reason to have a direct to consumer site, really, I suppose.
I would say the one thing that you would the way in which you would metabolize this for Amazon would be if you have a suite of products, think about the loss leader product. If you're
Hmm.
in a category, think about what item is hot, hot, hot that you don't care if you make any money on. You're just trying to get your foot in the door with a customer because the free domino knocks over the other paid dominoes. And so, maybe you sell a collection of, I don't know, I'm working on my greenhouse right now. So it's like maybe you sell a collection of greenhouse, uh, you know, plastic and ridge caps and plexiglass. Like I'm buying all this stuff. I'm literally spending thousands of dollars on this ridiculous greenhouse. Maybe you sell all that stuff on Amazon and you know that there's one thing that's really, really needed. Maybe it's the screws that hold down the plexiglass. Um, think about what could be a loss leader for you, and then branding and your whole system kicks in to support the customer. So that's the only equivalent I would say for Amazon seller that I can think of. But yeah,
Yeah, it's not so applicable, but
yeah.
certainly the idea of a loss leader, and I really really love what you're saying. I mean, obviously for anyone who owns their own site, the idea of turning a sort of free
Hmm.
skirmish, as it were, sort of
Hmm.
dipping your toe into the water into an actual transaction. There's psychology and data gathering that's fantastic there. I love that. What's the fourth way to get the visitors come back then?
Yeah, this one gets into sort of marketing strategy stuff, but the way in which we like to do this one, and the title of it would be, give them a structured reason to return to your site. And what I mean by structured reason is give them a reason that you can tell them once that they'll remember forever. And the ideas here are, for example, like what we've done since 2013 is we have a program we call Freebie Friday. Come to our site on Friday and you're going to get a free pattern. We've done that like, I mean, that's once customers hear that in our welcome series, they're like, oh, I'm coming next Friday. That's a very simple example of a structured reason to come back. The other things you could do is like we drop a new recipe every Monday if you're in the specialty foods categories or something like that. Or you could do something like we do Thursday night lives, and come at 5 p.m. on Thursday, and you'll join us live, and we'll be talking about products and our new items that and those types of structured events give customers a mental little open loop This is a little open loop in their mind. What? Oh, twice yearly sale? Oh, that's always the first week of June and the last week of December. Oh, I got to remember that. You know, stuff like that. Oh, Black Friday to Cyber Monday. That they always do a big special every year. I'm coming back Black Friday to Cyber Monday. So these kinds of structured reasons are incredibly important because all a customer has to do is hear that one time, and then your opportunity or the odds that they'll return at those right times is really, really, dramatic. So that's
I like
structured. Yeah.
I like it a lot. And there's no reason why Amazon focused sellers, and again, seller meaning that's where you sell, but that doesn't mean your entire business exists there in terms of your relationships with the customers, which is the piece that is so missing. No reason why you can't do a freebie Friday via a coupon code for Amazon. Recipes or anything like that can be on the blog.
Hmm. Hmm.
You do a live on the blog or on Zoom or any other way you want, really. A sale can be run obviously via Amazon, but you can advertise it via your email
Hmm.
list or via live. And again, annual event, I think that we give up a bit too much as people. If you focus on Amazon as a sales channel and just go, well, we're just going to go with their Black Friday promotions and stuff.
Hmm.
There's no reason why your rhythm can't be different. So really like this a lot. Actually, I think it's all
Yeah.
doable.
It was Alibaba who made Friends Day, when they did that, I was like, look what they're doing. That's just so like obvious, but also genius.
Yeah,
There's no reason every brand can't have their own annualized special thing. You make
yeah,
your own day. Make it your founder's day when you started your company, or make it your birthday, or whatever. It doesn't matter. You can have your own structured annualized event where you give your best sale, you give your best products, new things, whatever, whatever.
mm,
Yeah, those are all that's the whole category, structured reasons to come back.
really
Yeah,
like that. Yeah, and
yeah.
you're kind of basically developing a rhythm and inviting your customers to step into it rather than being
Hmm.
passive. I really like that a lot.
Yep.
Okay, what's the next thing? So we've got a list of 9 now, so we got to get motoring. What's the fifth reason?
Exactly right. Okay, so what are we on? We're on five.
Number
So
5, I think.
number
Yeah,
5 is very similar, but obviously it's give them a one-off reason to come back. And this is where your communication, touch points with them are vital. So a one-off reason to come back is to have a sale. Hey, this Tuesday, 24-hour sale, or hey, we're launching a new product, on November 1st. We're so excited about it. It's going to be amazing. You've all asked for it. Be sure to show up, limited quantity, whatever. Or maybe it's something like an info thing, like hey, we're having a meetup for all of our, customers, a virtual event on our website. Everybody come. We're going to give away prizes, whatever. Maybe it's a contest, big contest, comment contest, whatever. These ideas of one-off reasons, um, they are marketing gold. And whenever you have a problem with sales, a problem with bad, returning customer or returning visitor rates, you actually have a creative marketing problem. I mean, you just have a mental block. You just haven't thought of a good reason why. And so create a good reason why that's valuable to you and not giving away the farm. You're not like slash and burn or anything like that. But it is an interesting hook, a reason why people would come back to the website and then to buy something. This is this is probably the most intense energy required for e-commerce marketers. This category of special reason, but it's where many people just make their huge outcome a possibility. And the difference between a site that's run with no creative marketing and special reason why versus one where there's a special reason why every week,
mm,
the outcomes, I mean, you're talking about doubling or tripling or quadrupling your annual outcome just
yeah.
by adding this layer. So, yeah,
Really like this, and obviously you're a total specialist in contests, so respect for the provenance of this. You
yeah,
absolutely know what you're talking about with this. I
yeah,
think the lack of imagination as opposed to giving away the farm is a real problem with e-commerce, particularly those who focus on Amazon, but not
yeah.
only. There's a tendency to go, oh, well, I've got an email list, and they do two things. Number one, they neglect them, and then number two, they offer them a violent discount as their
Hmm.
only way of interacting with them. It's just
Violent.
it's like, like 50% off or 30% off, in other words, whatever, think of your profit margin and give it away, and
Yeah,
it's okay as a desperate way to launch products. And if you're
yeah,
then relying on SEO on Amazon to do the rest of the heavy lifting, but
yeah.
it's just, it's rather yeah, violent. I say violent because it does
Violent.
violent things to your profit and loss
P&L, yeah,
statement.
for sure.
Yeah, it's not, and it's not a very good relationship to have, because it's basically a bit like sort of,
Yeah,
it's a bit like some guy coming up to you in the street shouting who you vaguely know and say, "Hey, Mike, how you doing? You can have this for £5 off."
too
He kind
loud.
of feels
Mhm.
grumpy and
Too
uncomfortable, you know.
American for the British.
Well, no, not so much that. I can imagine, you could do that anywhere in the world, but no, it's
So,
just kind of like,
yeah.
it's not a good relationship. If I have a relationship where people keep offering me
Mhm.
value and then they offer me a modest discount, then I
Yeah.
feel that's a natural outgrowth of that relationship. Whereas a lot of the time I see people just doing nothing with their lists, and then
Yeah.
after months they're launching a product and they suddenly offer
Mhm.
everyone 30% discount once a day for a week.
It's so
And
common. It's so
yeah,
common.
I
The
can
other
see
thing, of
why.
course,
But
that you're doing there is, there's an old whatever phrase that says, what you catch them with, you have to keep them with.
right,
And if you
yeah, that's
train
true.
your customers that they're coming back to your website because you're violently discounting, then they know that. And after a time or two, then they're like, oh, this is what they do. They'll put a sale on 40% off if I just wait, and you'll train them. And you don't
Yeah.
want to do that. So you do
What
have
I
to be
mean by,
more creative than that. Yeah.
yeah, 40% to me is a violent discount and not untypical. And in other words, you're violating your P&L. If
Yes.
every time you're
Yeah.
training people to buy at a point where you're making a loss, that is
Yeah.
not a good idea.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
if you've got a decent margin and you can give them 10% off and that's valuable to them and you still have a nice profit margin left after, that's sustainable. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
guess that's what I mean. Okay, so number 6 out of 9.
Yeah, number 6 is a newish one, technically, that is just on fire, and that is, be sure to capture their phone number so that you can do text and SMS marketing campaigns. Now, this is made possible inside of Shopify very easily. In the checkout process, you can require a phone number, or you can make it an optional element, but or you can have it turned off. And so you want to look in your Shopify settings to make sure that it's, I would say, optional. I wouldn't make it required. But when you start to do that and have it be optional, you start to build a list of phone numbers. And there's a great app that many of our clients are turned on to now that are just crushing it with, and that's called SMS Bump. The SMS Bump app um, is a fantastic tool for abandoned text checkout, or abandoned checkout texts. So if a customer has the phone number in your data, they abandon their product in their cart, they'll get a text that says, "Hey, I just wanted to make sure you didn't, the internet didn't go down. Say whatever you want, but here's the item, so that you can complete your checkout." Those work like crazy. The conversion rate on those texts are literally crazy. And text-based marketing is a pay to play system. So you actually pay for every text that is sent. And that actually is really interesting because we have some clients who are like, I spent $14 and made $4,700. Like these ROIs on this text-based stuff in SMS Bump is ludicrous. And so you definitely want to get that rigged up. And so having that abandoned checkout text SMS marketing is good to go for Shopify owners, and is just gold. And so there's that. Yeah.
I like that a lot. Obviously, you can only work some of the magic there. I think capturing phone numbers is also possible if you have a website and you're Amazon focused. You're going to have less power. You certainly can't do abandoned
Mhm.
carts retargeting, but you could do, some form of targeted, SMS
Well,
selling, I
that
guess.
leads us right to number 7, my man, which
Okay.
is the next thing you can do once you have phone numbers is you can do what I would call broadcast
Hmm.
texts. And so broadcast texts are the one-off campaign texts. They're not tied to any abandoned checkout thing. They're just a, hey, how do you do, everyone who I have your phone number and you've given it to me and I can text you something. We just launched our new product. I only have 180 of them and they're going like hotcakes. Here's your link, or whatever. It's like whatever, special broadcast. Now, these, um, because they're to your whole list, can be more expensive. So, like the one-off abandoned checkout one that we just talked about a moment ago, that's one text message to one customer about a specific thing. And so the ROIs stack up like, oh my gosh, I made like so much money. But if you just broadcast your whole, phone list, let's say you've got 1,000 people in there, it's basically standard direct response marketing metrics. How many of them click through the product? How many of them convert? How much money did that add up to? And is that more than it costs to do the campaign itself on the texting side? So it is a pay-to-play performance kind of based system. But do what we recommend to our coaching clients is that they try to do something like one special broadcast text a month. So you don't want to bomb people with tons of stuff because you've got the abandoned checkout thing running all the time on autopilot. And then if you've got a special thing like a new product, maybe once a month you do a big campaign to the whole text list. And that is gold. They'll,
Yeah.
of course, be coming to your site on their phone, but nonetheless, it's a returning visitor and it definitely improves your conversion metrics. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that the returning visitor things, I suppose, sort of all translate in the Amazon world, but with a slightly different angle on it. I mean, in this case, this would be a fantastic way to launch on Amazon, because launching on Amazon is always expensive anyway. But what you're really trying to do is juice the algorithm so that you get SEO, and that's how the economics works, rather than the cost of acquisition of customer versus lifetime or long-term customer value metric. It's so in that case, again, I would say that if unless your SMS marketing is remarkably expensive, that may well be worth doing as well if you've got a good offer to put out to a list. And it's not so much returning to your site, but it is kind of still an engagement of the people on your list, isn't it? So there's some similarities. And again, anything which you can do to launch effectively on Amazon is incredibly valuable, not to mention reviews, which you can try and get outside of the Amazon sort of very controlled ecosystem. So for both those reasons, again, an SMS list, just like any other list of prospects, is of great value in the right situation, I think.
I'll tell you my number one hack for Amazon only sellers. I would absolutely, and it doesn't matter if it's RA or wholesale or private label, I would absolutely, if that was my game and I was starting out today, I would be running a contest every week on a site like Wishpond, Rafflecopter, Viper. You don't have to have a Shopify site. Run a contest, give away something, have the entry methods be email opt-in and text, SMS, phone number opt-in. And if you had any social media accounts, you could have opt-ins related to those as bonus items. And then literally you do all of the text-based work and the email-based work, all focused on your Amazon sales channel. You can do everything we've just described if you just run a contest. And so then you've got a list of both phone, list and email list, and you're off to the races. It really gives you massive control over what we call traffic stacking in our 9 mountains of traffic training.
Nice.
There's no barrier to entry for that. Zero barrier to entry. You could have a contest set up literally in the next hour. Amazing. On any of those sites. It's not technical, it's not expensive. There's no barrier to doing that, and it will radically improve your Amazon sales outcomes if you start sending traffic, targeted traffic to your products. Yeah.
Amazing. I would presume as well that SMS is a much less crowded channel for marketing messages than email, partly because it's pay to play, I guess.
That's why the results are so incredible, is because people get very few text messages. And you don't want to be the person that pushed them over the edge that they then resent and hate you. You don't want to be that person. You don't want to push it. What you want to do is be there to support them. They abandon a checkout. You wanted to make sure they still had the opportunity to buy the product. Boom, that's okay. Or once a month, you've got something special. Put it in front of them, gentle and not pushy way. I think that's reasonable. So, but yeah, that's the reason the results are so incredibly high, is people's inboxes are literally hilarious. I mean, Michael, do you know how many emails I have in my inbox right now?
I have no idea, but I can guess 1,000.
61,906.
Okay, so you're not a man who clears his inbox frequently.
Yeah, I'm not even joking. 61,906.
Yeah.
People's inboxes are stuffed.
Yes.
Their
Yeah.
text messages aren't. Okay, so anyway, well, you guys get the point. I
Yeah.
don't need to sell people on text marketing, but
I
anyway.
like it, but I
Yeah.
think you probably do in the sense that people aren't doing it. I think that it's actually because it's pay to play, it puts
Mhm,
people off. But that's really good because it's putting everyone off.
mhm,
So if
yeah,
you can get the economics to work for you, I think that's really powerful.
yeah,
So we've got 2 left, I think. My
yeah.
buy my reckoning. So what's number 8? Ways, by the way, guys, we're talking about ways to get repeat visitors or returning visitors to your site in essence. So what's number 8 for those?
Yep. So these last two are more paid based, or marketing spend based. So number 8 is set up Google text based ads. Now, the reason I love people to start with Google text based ads is you're answering a question that people are actively searching for. So people are looking for you know greenhouse roofing material, and your ad pops up and says buy our greenhouse roofing material. Those text-based ads are old school, but they're not interruption marketing. They are answering the hungry crowd with here's the plate of food type idea. That to me is a great way to um, increase traffic to your site. But then the thing about it is, the more you do that in your niche or industry, you will find returning customers that are searching for stuff, and the opportunity for them to know, like, and trust you and come back to you is is clear and obvious. Now, I think it was point number 2, we said pixel people. So you can also set up through the Google ad platform your retargeting. Now, the retargeting ads can be in the display network, so they can be image ads that are all over the internet, so that when people go to various websites, they'll see your website again through because you're retargeting them. That's a fantastic opportunity to get that second visit, third visit, fourth visit. So that's the eighth idea.
I like this. I'm just again trying to think about how somebody who sells primarily on Amazon is going to make this work. I mean, it's just a bit of a trickier one, isn't it? Because obviously the cost up
Mhm,
front and then justifying that is going to be hard to do. If you do it in one burst to boost a launch, you could do that. I think you're going to have
mhm,
to accept that the break even point is going to be pushed back by that. And I probably would be wary of doing this quickly, which is another reason why ultimately people who focus on Amazon primarily, or most of the ones I know that are serious, are all building their own direct to consumer site, bar none.
mhm.
They're all of them. I mean, some of them with more success than others, but
Yeah,
these are reasons why longer term you want to be multi-channel. I think because the opportunities in each channel are different, really.
yeah. And
So kind of
Amazon
hard.
in the Amazon marketing platform tools doesn't have any equivalency to this type of stuff, I suppose, does it? Just
Not that I
has
know of.
featured product, blah blah blah. Yeah.
They're expanding it all the time. There are some more sophisticated things coming out where you can actually start to do display network type
Hmm.
advertising.
Yeah.
But by the time you're spending that kind of money and learning that kind of system, I'd rather be outside the Amazon ecosystem because
Hmm.
in the end, what you're doing is pushing people back towards a platform that tends to offer them other people's products
Of
in the
course.
say, as quickly as possible. So
Yep.
I'd rather, spend the money, even if it's a longer term play, pushing them back towards your own site here. I mean, whereas if you're building a list of people and you're then pushing them to Amazon to buy it, you're still building a list you can nurture. So I think that this is the thing really that strikes me always, that building your own assets, above all, what we're talking about today is building your own marketing assets, the back end of which, some of which they only work on Shopify, but a lot of the time they work on Amazon as well. But the asset is the marketing and the relationship, and that return visit is a sign that we've got that relationship, I guess, isn't it really? That there's a
Absolutely.
good
Yeah.
reason why they should come back.
Yep.
Okay, so that's number 8.
One
And
left.
one left, number 9. What do we
No.
do?
Yeah. Number 9 is easy. Facebook retargeting. Facebook retargeting. Once you pixel them, then you've got an opportunity to put your brand and your products back in front of them. Now, I have this last on the list, and I do think this is a priority order. This would be the last thing on this list that I would do, because it's expensive and it doesn't work that well. In fact, we we studied this on our own site pretty well, and I've told the story before. But what we discovered after we did a retargeting analysis was that um, it was easier for me to get a first time visitor to my website than it was to get a second time or third, to get the retargeted returning customers cheaper and easier, which is super depressing in a way if you think about what that means, which is people are less likely to come back to the site the second time than they are the first time when they're looking for something that's like what you think you have for them. But nonetheless, retargeting is clearly an option, and it can work for many websites and many products. It's definitely a way to stay top of mind. Even if the customer doesn't return to the site, you put yourself in front of them in a way that they could. Now, you maybe they see you on Facebook with your retargeting ad, and then they just, go to their browser, open a tab, and go to your site. So you never know what the knock-on effects are of those
Mm.
types of display ads. But yeah, that's a simple one, and I would I would clip off the budget quickly and monitor it closely to make sure that you don't just spend a ton of money on that. But there you go.
Yeah.
That's the ninth one.
You're not the only person to find that by the way easier, or the economics make more sense to get a one-off visitor than to get returning visitors. I've had
Yeah.
Amazon-based sellers who focus on Facebook ads but only for launch. So say the same kind of thing. They've tried building retargeting lists, I guess, on their own websites or
Yeah.
in some interstitial stage page that belongs to somebody else, but that's pixel you can pixel people on.
Yeah.
And yeah, they've had the same experience. So maybe when you're on an interruption marketing mode and you're on Facebook, people are just driven by impulse, and maybe that results in very vicious behaviors, I guess. So I'm never quite comfortable with those kind of interruption marketing things. They
Mm.
work, but there's a different mentality, a different art to that, I think, isn't there, than any other the things that you've talked about today, I think.
Totally. Yeah. Totally
Because
agree.
everyone else has come there because they're looking for something specific. So
Yeah.
yes, so yes, don't do this in a hurry at home, folks. We've got 9 things. So that's the ninth thing. So let's recap in the priority order, so that the earlier it comes in the list, the more likely it is to work for people by the sound of it.
Okay. Here's the whole summary in 60 seconds. So the exercise here is to improve your returning customer or visitor rate on your product or website. And there are 9 ways you can do that. Here we go. First of all, get their email address. Second of all, pixel them with both Facebook and Google Pixel. Third, get them to buy anything on their first visit. Even a free item that's run through the checkout is incredibly valuable. Four, give them structured reasons to come back, like annual events, weekly events, things that are planned that they know they can hear about and come back for. Number five, give them special one-off reasons to come back. That would be your typical items on sale, new product launch, a contest, that kind of thing. Number six, set up text SMS marketing. Get their phone numbers in the checkout process. And number seven, do one-off broadcasts where send them special items. Oh, number six was abandoned checkout flow for the text SMS. Number eight is set up Google text AdWord campaigns to get people who are super hungry to come to your site. You know that they're the right people. They're highly likely to come back a second time as well. And you can then, of course, retarget through Google ad systems. And number eight is do retargeting again through Google. And number nine is retargeting through Facebook. Okay, so that's the sloppy redo of the 60-second
That's cool.
summary.
And
So there you go.
I've made detailed notes as ever, folks. You'll find them over at theecommerceleader.com. So when I
Yeah.
make notes, I confuse Jason with I'm messing with your outline here. So Jason, obviously, you're showing once again your amazing chops with the Shopify / direct to consumer world. So if people want to get more coaching from you, and I know Kyle Hamer is also, your partner in crime there.
Yep.
How do they figure it out? Is it winning on Shopify still? I know you guys are rebranding. Where do they go these days?
It's still winning on Shopify.com currently, but when you're listening to this in the future, it will likely redirect to our new brand that we're rolling out in the next few weeks, we hope. And so, yeah, go check us out there. You've got application forms for coaching. You've also got other resources and tools like our 9 Mountains of Traffic and our small groups, that kind of thing that you can check out there.
Amazing. And as ever, folks, if you want to check us out, you can always go to the trusty podcast apps, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, whatever it is. But we have a new place where you can connect with us, which is on the e-commerce leader on call-in app, CALL and then IN, as it sounds.
Mhm.
That's very exciting because you can actually pop in there, and we could even potentially do things like get you on the show briefly to ask questions or whatever. And
Yeah.
I guess, Jason, that so far we're focusing on a fun new format, which is a 4-way chat, isn't it? But we're hoping to get people in there and be a little bit more interactive.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
fun dynamic. It's a four of us roundtable conversation. They're faster episodes. We're trying to do them in 12 to 15 minutes. Hot topics, hot takes on one thing. So the one we dropped earlier this week was Kate Chaddock and Chris Green talking about Q4 strategies for retail arbitrage. So there'll be very micro specific topics, and yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah. So, folks, that's the new place to check us out. Just remains me to say, Jason, this has absolutely been your episode, and as ever, I'm in awe of your, fantastic tips there, because I think that there's so much power in the stuff you're doing, and you've got so many great results, not only for yourself now, but for your clients. So, some exciting things to go over. So, thanks, man. That was great stuff.
Thanks, man. It's an honor. Okay, that's the podcast. Woo! All right, Michael. Now you're off to some fun place here, so we're going to clip this off pretty quick. But yeah,
Yeah,
good
just want to
time.
give a shout out to Jacob, who turns out to be not only one of our most loyal listeners slash followers, but also a bit of a genius. Works in computers and has written a book about merch by Amazon, which I had
Yeah,
no idea. So it just goes to show the quality of people listening. So Jacob, if you're listening, I hope you survived your trip around Europe. But he's one of those people that doesn't believe in doing things by half. So sometimes North Americans do Europe in a hurry, and he's one of those people. So he's going Frankfurt to Milan, then he's going Milan to Istanbul, and then he's going to fly
nice.
from Istanbul to Miami, all within about 4 days. So there's some extraordinary people out there listening to us. So if that's you,
Absolutely,
Jacob, good luck with your travels, and to everyone else who's joined in, thank you so much for joining us. It's an honor to serve such a vibrant community of people.
absolutely right. Okay, man. Good times, good times. Have a wonderful Saturday evening there, and we'll see everybody next week. I think our normal time will probably drop next week, Sunday morning.
Absolutely, yeah.
And
See you
yeah,
guys.
good times. See you, buddy.
Cheers.